This is Andrew Hada from Nothing Ventured Media. I want to tell you about all the feature films we've made and how you can see them right now. The last one is a zombie drama about how a pandemic and isolation could drive a group of people mad. When the virus hits, John finds himself alone and scared until he meets Michael, his protector. But when Karina, another survivor, enters the mix, everything that John and Michael knew will be turned on its head. The last one's is a zombie virus movie that's somehow even more relevant today. Plus, it has zombies. Check it out. Borderland is a mexploitation film about living in El Paso. When Sarah finds herself in debt to the cartels, she has until sunrise to find some missing monies with the help of her executioner. Borderland is a true midnight movie and a lot of fun. The documentary Humble Spirits tells the story of the Hahn family, including champion Jennifer Hahn from El Paso, Texas. The entire Hahn family has grown up in the combat sports and has helped shape who they are both in and out of the ring. Humble Spirits, a family of fighters, is the perfect documentary for boxing fans of all ages. Finally, The Empty Space, winner of multiple awards, including the Sacramento Horror Film Festival's Best of the Best, is a cosmic horror about Amy Andrews, who's dealing with anxiety and depression after a violent attack that killed her husband. As she tries to find herself, she starts to lose her grasp on reality. Or could it be something much more sinister? The Empty Space is full of twists and turns, with Grace DeWilder of Rue Morgue magazine calling it a powerful film full of excellent performances by practically every cast member. All of Andrew Hada's movies are available to rent or buy on streaming services such as Tubi, Amazon, and many other places. And if that's not enough for you, Hada Films is home to all of our short films. So take a look around and see what you like. Spend your day with Hada Films and Nothing Ventured Media. Now, let's start the bomb squad. Happy Halloween and welcome to the Boo Squad.
Oh.
As you can see, even my background is all Halloweened out. We got The Empty Space. Oh, by the way, you might not have seen this, or maybe I added a commercial to the beginning of this. But The Empty Space is now available on Screenbox. Since all of you guys love horror films, or at least a large majority of you, you'll be able to find it on Screenbox. Go check it out. Or go back to Tubi. If you're like, hey, I don't have Screenbox, I guess I'm not going to watch it. Well, guess what? You're going to watch it on Tubi.com.
There's no excuse.
You're going to say, hey, I live in Tasmania. I don't have it. We'll send you a DVD. You send us your address. And $200.
Do we have a Tasmanian? Do the stats show that? We have Tasmanian listenership?
Potentially.
Yeah,
I mean,
who knows when they're going to watch this? You know,
never even looked.
Here's the thing: the Tasmanian guy, he's a hacker.
He's a real devil. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, welcome
He's
to
using
our
a VPN. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to our Halloween. As always, we have a theme, but this time, like the last couple of years, we would do like let's watch all the Texas Chainsaw movies. Let's all watch all the Pinhead movies. Let's watch all the Alien movies. We always had. Well, we just did Alien, so we didn't want to do that again. Also, there's a varying degree of quality on how much you guys like us going through the series, which does not mean we're not going to do them again, because we still are. But it does mean that you're not the biggest fans of them, but I'm okay with it. So this year, we're still going to do a theme, but we decided instead of doing like, oh, let's just pick one horror guy and follow him, we picked like a genre. And the genre we picked is haunted houses. This is a hotel. Also, our movie today is a hotel. So double poignant. But haunted
they live in
a haunted
hotel,
place. A
haunted place, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to call this month.
Okay.
Yeah.
A haunted place. And also another change this year is because, again, we always let the other guys pick stuff, but we've never let them pick a whole month. So we let William. These are all William picks. I gave one suggestion, but William also has to follow that suggestion if he wants. He doesn't have to.
Yeah.
I'll just be that episode. I'll just sit there and not talk if he wants to play games.
Right. Haunted games.
Yeah, haunted. He's going to see a haunted place.
Please.
Right away. He's going to be in a haunted place.
One of us will be haunting something soon enough.
Yeah. But, so these are all William picks. And today, starting off, a haunted hotel.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting off with 2011's The Innkeepers, directed by. Oh, by the way, The Innkeepers. Where can you watch it? On Screenbox. So go check out Screenbox. I feel like all the
Also,
movies are there.
Yeah,
Tu-
yeah.
Also,
Um,
Tubi. It's on Tubi.
Yeah,
And Prime and Peacock.
yeah, guys. That's what I wanted to tell the audience where Innkeepers was, not to market my movie more. It was written and directed. I'm glad that we had that fact check. Thanks.
Trust us.
This is like being on Twitter again. It was written and directed by Ti West of Maxine fame.
Mm-hmm.
It stars Sarah Paxton of Shark Night fame. It stars Pat Healy, who you probably don't recognize his name, but you've seen him before. He was in Killers of the Flower Moon. He was in Better
Yeah.
Call Saul. He was in Cheap Thrills. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's a really good
Yeah,
actor.
yeah.
And then the other actress is Kelly McGinnis, who you might not know, but she was in Top Gun. She was in Witness. She was in The Accused.
Yeah, yeah.
Check out Witness. Maybe we'll talk about Witness and how movies are too long sometimes.
She's got a familiar face, but she's kind of hard to place when you first
Well,
see her.
and also like I think a lot of her big hit movies were like when she was younger.
Yeah.
So it's
well,
almost like it's that thing where you're not expecting Kelly McGinnis to show up in The Innkeepers.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's nice to see her still working back then.
Mm-hmm.
And since William picked and I just talked for an hour, Josh, why don't you tell us what this movie's about?
Ooh, nothing.
Well, there is a plot.
This movie isn't about it. These two people both live and work at this hotel that's closing in a week.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, this is a haunted hotel, so let's do the Zach Baggins ghost recordings to find them. And then eventually they do.
Well, cool. Yeah, I mean, that is technically what it's about. But yeah, I think this movie, it's like, I like the setting of this film. I think that's one thing Ti West probably does better than anyone else, is whether you like or hate his movies, he always has good setups.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
well, William, tell us why you picked The Innkeepers. By the way, before you continue, this movie also has, and everyone's waiting for this,
Yeah, everyone's
Lena
super active.
Dunham.
Yeah, yeah, and she's fully
Lena-
clothed the whole time, so take that for what you will.
It's so funny to watch Lena Dunham do like these little, like a little tiny role. Because I was like, okay, is she gonna come back? No, all right.
I
that's
know,
fine.
I know.
Was that
Like she
just
must
to
have just
put
been
her on a
friends with Ti
poster?
West. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like almost
think
like top build too. She's like
That's also
kind of
like
like towards the front of the credits.
the one scene
Right.
that doesn't take place at the hotel. It's such a
The
weird,
only one,
like,
yeah.
See,
Well,
and
there's
I
the parking
wonder,
lot, kind of, but that's neither here
and
nor
I
there.
do know that like Tiny Furniture and this movie and like Ti West movies all kind of came up at the same time. So I wonder if
Yeah.
they were just friends
I
and
think
they're like,
so.
"Hey, you want to film a quick scene?" Like,
Right, right. This is something
Because
I've
it's
got
like
going.
a funny role, but it's not important whatsoever.
No, it could have easily been cut from the movie. Like, no,
Yeah.
no problem. Okay,
But,
so the reason I
but-
picked this movie, so I watched it like a long time ago, like maybe like 2014, something like that. And the night that I watched it, it like really got me. Like it really surprised me, like how scary it was. And so I've always just like had in the back of my mind, like, oh yeah, The Innkeepers. Like no one talks about that. And so
Yeah.
then I presented it to you guys as an idea, and you both were like, well, I guess we can do that movie and get it over with quickly. And I was just like,
Well, I've
fuck
never
off!
seen
Like,
it.
what the hell is wrong with you?
that was what Andrew said.
Yeah, maybe it was
But-
just Andrew. But I will say
He was right though.
So, what I'm gonna answer a different question and say what I think is interesting about this movie is that it's tonally kind of off and like a little bizarre, and it tries to be very funny while also trying to be very scary. But I would say it succeeds more when it's really scary, and it's kind of interesting seeing like Ti West kind of like at the beginning of his career, like veering off into like this sort of like Stephen King territory, which he never really revisits ever again. And when it works, it really works. But whenever he tries to do like funny interpersonal stuff, it's kind of hard. It doesn't really land that well.
So I do want to kind of I had a revelation while watching this film. I will say that I disagree with Andrew, but whoever that guy is.
Yeah.
I saw this movie and I started watching it at night, and I will admit there's like, so the movie is Sarah Paxton and Luke. They play the innkeepers, as the title suggests,
Right.
and they're working in this hotel. And I really like their character
Hmm.
because it's a different. Like usually when you have these characters who are looking for ghosts, like they're both either one of them or both of them are zealots. Like they're super into it. Like I think
Right.
of
Right.
Sinister or Ghostbusters, But this movie does it in a way that I think is very interesting, where it's like yeah, they kind of believe in ghosts, but mostly they're bored
They're
and they
just
have
bored
nothing else to
friends at the
do.
hotel. Yeah, and it's a supposedly
Yeah.
haunted
And it's
place. It's like
like,
a famously
yeah,
haunted, like little town hotel, and they're just like,
yeah,
well, if you want to record, I don't give a shit, but I got a website kind of going,
It,
so
it's
they're like
yeah.
will be
very
like
casual.
it'll be like every time. It's so funny because like they've apparently been doing this forever. And Luke, the character played by Matt Healy, he says that he's seen the ghost like a couple of times. It's a famous ghost in this thing.
Right.
And like it's so funny every time Claire, who's like the more true believer out of the two, every time she's gonna go look for ghosts, she never looks like she wants to go look for ghosts, even though it's like
Yeah.
her idea. And I think that makes her very interesting.
Yeah,
This
'cause it's still
person who's
scary.
like, yeah, it's still
Scary to
freaky.
go
And I
look
will
for
say
ghosts.
so.
I don't ever want to go do it,
I
even though I want to do it all the time.
exactly like
Yeah.
every time I'll literally be like, oh, we should go check that out. And then as we get closer, I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah.
That happened to me in LA. I talked to the guys about it. There was a very evil place there.
Yeah.
I couldn't get too close because it was too evil. I won't say the name because it's a little bit bad taste.
It was a Red Robin
Oh.
restaurant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
It was a grand.
it was the apartment where me and William used to live, and let me tell you, there's a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of evil
Yeah.
things in that building, mostly the rent.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Not the rooftop.
But-
The rooftop is cool.
So I started watching it last night, and like halfway through, there's like a part where she's like going through the sounds, and she's just listening to the sounds. I was like, you know what? Let's watch this tomorrow. Like, it's a
Fuck
little bit
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Y-
Ti
And
West
I-
knows how to scare you.
yeah.
He, like, even if his
Yeah.
movie's like not like killing it, like when it's scary, like he's just like such a good guy at getting tension out of like a scene.
Right.
And like I really did you guys
There
ever see-
is, yeah. He's really good at build up. I think.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
really
Yeah.
like knows how to like. To me though, it's more like this movie is almost like two halves that don't connect because
Right.
so little happens in the first hour
Hmm.
that you're almost like, oh, there's almost not going to be ghosts because because they're like both college dropouts who are just bored and work at this hotel.
Yeah.
And, the only interesting thing that happens to her, because she's super excited, is one of the guests is like an actress she really liked,
Mhm.
like an older actress. And even the actress is like, oh, you really like my movies? Are you like studying to be an actress? She's like, no, I just like work here. And you could tell she's like embarrassed. you know, and it's just like, oh, this is kind of a movie about the kind of like millennial like disaffectation going nowhere in life type thing.
yeah, the slacker.
But then it's just kind of about ghosts then. Like later, you're
Right,
like, oh,
right.
no, I guess.
I know. I never
Right.
really knew like what her motivation was. Like, I never really knew like what the main
And
actress is
see-
like. What was she? What did she
Yeah.
want out of life? Which
Yeah.
kind of seems like they
And
were
I
trying to
do-
answer.
Yeah, I do kind of want to get there, but it'll have to be spoiled, so I'll wait a little
Yeah.
bit for my theory. But yeah, I think that, and I do like her, and I love that scene where she's talking to the other the actress,
Hmm.
and like you can tell that she's just never really thought outside of her own like little box. Like
Right.
the idea that she wouldn't just work at this hotel every day for the rest of her life, despite the fact that she knows the hotel is going to be torn down,
Yeah.
is pretty interesting. Like there's another scene where like that scene with Lena Dunham, even though like we said, it's just kind of a joke scene. The important thing about that is that like Lena Dunham has a billion coffee things on
Yeah.
her head, and like she can't order, and then she tries to order, and then she gets too scared. So it's very much this person who doesn't want to move on.
Hmm.
I don't know if they went as far as they could have with it, but I do know that Sarah Paxton is doing a great job as this character.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely believe her.
One of my favorite. I love this scene. Like, there's like this other. The only other people who are still in the hotel is this mom and her kid, and they're like kind of like it's like their dad is. They're like trying to separation, so they're just kind of there. But they've been there for like months, so it's like, okay, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And like, there's a part where Sarah Paxton is just telling her about like the ghost in the house, and then the kid obviously gets scared, and she's like, he tells them about like, she said a ghost was gonna get me,
Yeah.
and she's like, oh well, why would you tell that to my son? And Sarah Paxton goes, I didn't say I would get him.
Yeah. just
Like
totally
she
in her
so
own
clearly
bubble.
did not.
Yeah. She's like immature.
She
She's
doesn't
like not really a
understand.
full-fledged
Yeah.
adult. And she's probably like mid-20s, which is like kind of okay for like that age. But yeah, it's like her whole character is like not sure what to do. And like it seems like she doesn't even have anything lined up next, like after this place closes down the
very
next
relatable.
weekend. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very relatable, and I do like, and even like the other character, he's like more like he's more of a like he's kind of given up already.
Yeah,
and so
they have a
he's
very
just kind
important
of playing
conversation
along.
where she's like, do you ever think about whenever you dropped out of college, was that the right decision? And he's like, I think about that every day, and I'm not sure. Or he says something like that. So it's like they're both definitely in the same realm. Like they have the same, that's how they connect to each other.
It's kind of like they're on a curve, but Sarah Paxton is on the beginning of the curve, and he's kind of like near the end of
Right.
it.
Yeah, like
none of them are at the top or the
he's
bottom.
making a website, like a shitty like ghost hunting website that even he doesn't really care about, but she's really excited about it. And he's just like,
As the movie kind of progresses, you kind of get the idea that he might have a crush on her, but it might be that thing where it's like not so much a crush, it's that these are the only two people who see each other.
Right.
At any point in the day. Like he doesn't see anyone else. When everyone's awake, he's asleep. And when he's awake, the only person he sees is Claire.
Yeah.
So it's like this kind of like,
proximity
parasitic
relationship. Yeah.
Also
parasitic. And so he's like, he has like this ghost hunting website, and he has like these videos, and like even like when you're watching the movie and you're like, you don't really know about the ghost yet as an audience, you watch the videos and you're like, okay, that's interesting, because it's like a door shutting very slowly and like you can't see it.
Yeah.
It's the realistically shitty, like,
right.
Oh,
and he says at one point, he even says like, on the website, when we have some real proof, we can really get this going. And so you're just kind of like, that's an interesting thing to say, because you literally have real proof right here, don't you? But we'll get to that later.
One thing,
but
another thing I liked is how bad they are at their jobs.
Yeah, and their towel game. Their towel game is fucked up. Yeah. They don't do shit.
There's like a scene where she has to throw away a trash bag, and she like cannot do it. She like tries to put it, starts leaking. It gets on her, and it's like, hey, just put the trash bag in.
And it doesn't seem like they've just become bad at their jobs because the hotel is failing. Like they have been shitty, literally the entire time. Which might be years.
There's a reason they're working the night shift at a closing hotel.
Right, exactly. And it's like,
and I think, go ahead.
Well, it's like this is kind of like the beginning of the movie. Like the beginning, like it's a ghost story. It's a Ti West movie, and there are some scares at the beginning, but it's mostly just about these two people. Like that's what like the first half of the movie really is, which could throw you off as a watcher.
And I would say it's even mostly just about Claire.
Yeah,
like she takes so much of that first half.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, and this is actually kind of, especially, I don't know if you guys probably watched it on Screenbox, also now playing The Empty Space, but I watched it on Tubi.
No, I was too busy watching The Empty Space on there.
I watched it on Prime, if I'm going to be honest.
And on Tubi, it's like, these two innkeepers are, living their lives or whatever, when a series of strange guests come to visit. That is not what happens.
Well, I mean, kind of.
Two guests come. One is kind of strange. That's about it.
They're both
and he doesn't
weird.
show up for the first hour of an hour 30-minute movie.
I would say that Kelly McGinnis, because she plays like this old actress, kind of aged out, and now she's like psychic, because she's going to like a psychic convention, which is perfect for this haunted house. So I would say she's also kind of weird. Even the mom is kind of like, wow, this lady sucks. She's always got that.
Why would she choose this hotel?
No, that mom is reasonable. No, she's just mad about the towels because they're bad at giving.
Oh my god, go back.
Hotel. She should have been staying at a Holiday Inn. Like he even mentioned a Marriott down the street. That's where you take your son.
And they point out that the Marriott is cheaper than the Innkeeper hotel.
Like it's weird that she's there for sure.
And I do and that's one of the things, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but one of the things I kind of had a problem with is that this movie kind of sets up everyone in this place as if they're drawn to it. Kind of like The Shining, like the outlook. But it doesn't ever deliver on that.
Yeah, it never coalesces.
It's just kind of like, implied, but then there's no reason for it at the end. Like there's no like you think about in The Shining, it like almost immediately they're like, "Well, you've always been here, Jack," and Jack's like, "Give me some beer."
Right.
But like here, it doesn't really pay off. It just kind of is established, and like that to me, that's why I like that first half better because all the stuff they're establishing, I really enjoy.
Right.
Like even like the way they're doing the scares. It's just that a lot of that ends up not really paying off as we get towards the end.
I would 100% agree with that.
Kind of-
I would say that this movie has a lot kind of going for it, but then once it's over, you're like, so what was this about, really? Like,
Yeah, it doesn't like what happens to her in kind of the second half doesn't really tie into where she is as a person.
Right.
It's just kind of like this could have happened to anyone. I guess.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. Guys, will you just say whether you think people should watch this movie? Because I feel like we're constantly gearing into spoiler territory, so let's just
we have to, for this one.
Yeah, so I think it was cool. Like I would watch it, especially for Halloween. Yeah. It's not my favorite movie. I'm not like a huge Ti West fan, which I'm about to get into. But I think it was worth watching. It's probably one of my favorites. It's not called Maxine. But what do you guys think? Watch or no watch?
Josh?
I don't know. I would say like I mean, not even a horror guy, whatever. But if you're kind of one of those like, oh, I really like Ti West and I want to see kind of his rough cut of some ideas he would do later, this is like interesting for that to be like, oh yeah, he's kind of doing this, but he kind of does it better in like Maxine or Pearl or whatever. It's just very like but it's it takes a long time to get going. So I would say it's
I would say that I wouldn't put this on at a Halloween party necessarily, but if you do like to watch a lot of horror movies, like I finished this movie this afternoon when I was like doing stuff around the house, and like whenever it would get scary, like it still got me in a couple of places. And so I would say just like just the craft of like the scares. It's
Home
like
Alone
totally
at night with like a dark room, and you're like, I want to put on something a little unnerving.
Yeah,
this is a good one. It's not gonna like go crazy.
Yeah, I would definitely.
Also, I would
6 or 7 out of 10 for sure. I would say it's well worth watching.
I would definitely watch it for Sarah Paxton's performance alone. I don't know, like she was kind of always almost at the verge of being a star. She's a good actress. She did a really good job in this. But yeah, now we're gonna go into spoilers, guys. If you haven't watched it, we recommend you watch it. If not, we're gonna get into spoilers. So Josh was saying that if you watch this movie, if you want to see a Ti West movie that has a little good ideas that it doesn't follow through on, I would say do that, or you can watch any other Ti West movie.
No way.
He does this all.
Hold on, I want to give one shout out. I want to give one shout out to a movie that I don't think I've ever heard anyone else talk about. But The Sacrament. Did you guys ever see The Sacrament?
No.
Yes, I saw The Sacrament. If you want to see a bunch of ideas,
no fucking way, dude. There's a speech that guy gives. It's like the Brian Jonestown Massacre.
He does a good job.
That main actor does such a fucking, and it's like a one shot, like just like swivel around the guy's face, and I was like, wow. And like, it kind of ends like not that great, but like the tension he can build is something that's worth watching in this movie and in The Sacrament.
And I will say that the thing that Ti West does very, very well, it's true in this movie, it's true in The Sacrament, it's clearly true in the X trilogy, is that he can always get one performance and it's like so good that you're almost like, hey, that was
it kind of forgets.
Like even if you didn't like the movie. Yeah, and in The Sacrament it is the cult leader. In Maxine. Like the one I really liked Maxine, and I like this is probably my second favorite of all of Ti West movies that I've seen, and I've seen pretty much all of them.
Same.
And I think the reason that I did is because these two movies are, and like this one falters a little bit, but Maxine is one of the only movies where he gives us a premise at the beginning and then he really follows through on that premise. Even this one, especially X, they kind of like, they set up like, why are we spending so much time setting up this porno shoot in Texas and then we don't really do anything with it? Like it just becomes
just
all
like, and I'm gonna kill these people.
Like everything in this movie, from the website to like their ghost hunting to like the psychic fair to Lena Dunham's boyfriend that she talks about for quite a bit, none of it really comes back into the
Right.
movie, and it kind of sucks because
It's
it's
interesting
like
stuff.
it
Yeah.
should have. Like some of this stuff could have been reintroduced and would have been
hmm
interesting to play with, but he just kind of like uses it as an opening. But yeah, so as the movie, like,
but it's not like an opening. It's the first like
It's a long
60%
time
of the
movie,
movie
yeah.
is
I
set
know.
up for something
And
that doesn't really come
I-
up. You know?
let me ask you guys. So okay, so at the end of this movie, the like ghosts are getting louder and louder, and there's like a bride ghost that Sarah Paxton sees, and so she's freaked out. But then like they hear something, and then there's an old man who visits, and like she finds out that he's gonna kill himself, and he does. And then she sees the ghost again. She kind of runs away, and then she has an asthma attack in the basement as she's trying to get out, and the ghost is like chasing her, and then she dies.
Right.
And then the whole last part of the movie is them like kind of reminiscing on that, but this movie's tone, even though it is kind of freaky and kind of scary, never warrants the main character dying. It'd be like
Dude, I
if
know.
like Shaggy died at the end of Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
like
It's
like
so
this
out of
movie
nowhere.
almost makes more sense
Yeah.
if the ghosts are never like, oh, like if this movie kind of went where it's like, oh, she never knows for sure if she saw them or
Mhm.
didn't.
Yeah.
But something about her life changes from the
Right,
experience.
right.
That's the movie you were making.
Right.
But it's almost like he got to like the 90th page of this movie. He's like, oh, then I guess the ghost killer. I
Right.
don't know.
And you could even
Yeah.
go off on like a thing to where it's like maybe it's like the asthma attack was what actually happened and it wasn't the ghost, or like maybe she was suicidal. But it's like none of that plays into the first half of the movie at all. So like her dying for real. I
And-
can just imagine like Ti West like telling someone his movie idea over breakfast. And he's like, and then she fucking dies, and they're just like, what? Like, are you for fucking
Yeah,
real?
like, why?
What do you mean?
It's like the original Clerks ending
Yeah,
where at the end
yeah.
you just get shot by a random robber.
Yeah,
where you're like,
I know.
Yeah,
okay.
it
It's
is
exactly like that.
because the whole like, and again, I won't say that this movie isn't scary. It does have some pretty freaky scenes, but like even the way they kind of approach it, it's very like not 100. It's not leaning all the way into like Sam Raimi, but it's still pretty like, oh man, these ghosts like they're never like that freaked
Right.
out. Like when she first sees a ghost, she doesn't like leave. She like runs into her coworkers. Like, oh, she hears him playing the piano.
Yeah.
She runs into his bedroom, and then like he's like, "Oh, come in," but he doesn't turn on the light, and she kind of gets freaked out about being in the strange guy's
Yeah.
house in the middle of the night,
His
or in his
room, yeah.
his apartment. He's staying in a hotel room, and like, so that's the level of fear that we should be
Right,
at.
and then she actually
Like,
sees the ghost.
yes, I'm
but then
scared,
she just
but-
like wakes up.
Yeah.
And thinks it's a dream, or something. Yeah,
right,
Yeah,
right.
and so yeah, so it's like it's just
But
it's such
so-
a it's almost like hammy. What I was gonna say is like there's a lot of false scares at the beginning of the movie too. Like there are some like true ghost things,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of like joking around kind of scares. And there's kind of like a little bit too
Yeah,
many of
there's
those at
so
the beginning,
many.
I thought.
Which almost work if you don't have that ending.
Right.
Like I don't know.
Right.
It's just it's a very
If-
strange. Yeah.
If anything, it almost would have made more sense. A, if the ghosts like are pushing her out and they're like trying to help her, like get out of here, don't be trapped like us. Or B, if her character was not wanting to be trapped, like that would have made more sense for this is the
Right.
ultimate like
Do something
punishment.
with like her
Or
versus
see
the
it-
ghost, like personality wise, yeah,
Yeah.
some kind of comparison.
Or if they had killed the dude. Because the guy in this is always like Luke, he's always fake scaring
Mhm.
Claire. And then he also, like he at the beginning, like I said, he claims that he's seen the ghost, but as the ghosts become more real, he finally admits, like, no, I never saw him. I was just trying to play along,
Yeah.
and I'm like freaked the hell out. And so it's like, if we're going by horror movie conventions, he should be the one who's killed. But even then, like, and I think like we're good. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
spoil
yeah.
this. I realized one of my problems with Ti West, and it's why I liked Maxine, because Maxine is so silly that it doesn't matter. But it's that he's never really, and maybe the Sacrament, maybe I need to watch it again because I don't remember it. But it never really feels like he has anything to say with these movies.
Yeah.
And like with
It's
this
very, like,
one,
a thing
it-
happens.
yeah, it
you know?
becomes almost frustrating because it's like, okay, but like in the story, what was the purpose of her dying? It just kind of feels like out of left
Right.
field. And even like, you know, you think of a movie, I'm not one who likes this trope. I hate the trope of the like, oh, he gets shot at the very end. Like
Right,
in
you're
Larry
not a
King.
bleak guy.
But
you don't
sorry,
like
spoilers
you
for
don't
Larry
like the bleak.
King.
You
Yeah,
don't like the bleak.
and so like even I'm not even a fan of this, but even in this one, it just feels so kind of out of
Hmm.
left field, and then you're kind of left with like, why was I watching this? Like, what am I
Take
supposed
from
to?
this.
Because it's not
Yeah.
like she
And it's a very
dies,
sad epilogue.
and
Like the
it's
last
not.
chapter is very sad.
Yeah,
It's just like fuck.
Yeah, they're just like,
And I
oh, we
felt
need to.
sad.
where the
It
whole
made
rest
me
of the
feel.
movie was all. Yeah, the whole rest of the movie is almost presented like a intro to horror.
Yeah.
Like it's very like, yeah, it's scary, but like we're gonna cut away and we're gonna have some jokes, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that would work better if Ti West like was trying like to me stories are important when you're trying to
Sure.
say something. Even like in silly horror
Yeah.
movies, you kind of want to have some kind of theme, but in his movies like same thing kind of happens with X where like halfway through he just decides that it's about stardom instead of
Right.
pornos and it's like why like I like the Maxine but why does she think she's going to be a movie star if she was in porn especially in the 60s or whenever
Yeah.
the movie takes place and so it's like this movie makes less sense the more I
Mhm.
watch it
And
oh
it's
cool
very
General Ortega's
it's
here.
very vibesy, you know.
And so and I feel like if he had like a more like a reason that he's telling this story if it was clear to us I think I would like him better. I think like I can't think if it was Ti West or Adam Wingard, but one of them was like they were more into the production side when you would read articles
Yeah.
with them. William, do you remember who this one was? Was it Adam
No.
Wingard? I think it was. It might have been both of them because they used to be
Yeah.
really good
Ti
friends.
West was in Your Next,
Um,
which I think he made. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I would agree. I was even
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
like whenever I was watching The Innkeepers again when I was finishing it this afternoon, like because Ti West is kind of like a modern sort of like legendary filmmaker, sort of like maybe not legendary, but it's like is he like he's very
He's
like he's kind of
popular,
like a
yeah.
big deal to our generation, but it's like I wonder why.
Yeah.
It's like is he just a legend because he's like an indie guy doing these kind of like genre throwbacks? Because like for real, like even like I saw the devil.
well,
Like what's
like,
that movie
on
he
the-
made before? Was it
yeah.
House of the Devil?
I saw the devil. No, House
that's
of the
pretty
Devil.
good,
Yeah.
but it's definitely like an exercise in style. And I would even say that like the
Yeah,
Sacraments have an exercise in
Yeah,
style.
like technically, he's got a real good technical like because even this movie like looks great, it
Mhm.
builds tension great. You're just like, why is it going
Yeah.
there? You know,
Like he
I
should
don't
he
know.
should
Like,
write someone
and
else's script.
This is
Yes,
this is gonna
yeah.
sound so mean that I might take it out.
Okay, well let's give 5 seconds.
I
5,
think, like-
4, 3, 2, 1.
I think that's one of the reasons that he's because like I'll give him this House of the Devil especially if you haven't seen House of the Devil go check it out
Mhm.
Pearl as well he knows how to recreate
Yeah.
a look like not just
Maxine.
like oh we're gonna put a black and white filter on this no this is what those movies look
It's like
like
the
at
Elephant
that
Man
time.
almost.
So he's really he's really good at that. The problem with me and the reason that I think that people like him so much is because media literacy is dead,
Yeah.
and so he knows how to set up, he knows how to have a good setting, and he knows how to make it look how you think it's going to be. So if you're not like really paying attention and you're just kind of watching it on your phone or you're like scrolling through Twitter. He hits all the beats. It's just by the end of it, you're not left with anything.
Right.
new.
I feel like I can from his movies. I can remember my
think of,
favorite
like-
parts, but I can't remember the whole thing. Like I don't think of it as like a full experience.
Plot, yeah.
Even like X or even Maxine,
Right.
which is the last one I just saw.
Yeah,
It was like great, but it's like
It-
I like the parts, but overall it's difficult. Yeah.
yeah. He's a sum of his parts director, which is not bad. I mean, some directors are then, some of them are really good at it. But I think like, and I don't want to take away by saying like, oh, he's not trying to say anything because even if you look at like Evil Dead or Army of Darkness, you look at Army of Darkness and like Ash is set up almost like this character. He doesn't really care. He's a lazy, like boring, and like that movie's not super profound other than in production. But by the end of it, at least Ash, even though he's still kind of cocky, he's kind of understands that you can't just look out for yourself. You can't let your girlfriend get sucked
Right.
out of a window. You sometimes have to protect the things you love, and that's what
Yeah.
Ash has learned in the course of Army of Darkness. But it feels like even in his best movies like Maxine and this one, the characters don't really learn or grow. So again, it's like I'm not here for the characters. I'm not really here for the scares because like they're so far in between. What am I here for other than like set
Right.
design?
It's like if I want a vibe movie, I think I'll watch
Yeah.
Beyond the Black Rainbow or something. Like this is like his movies are like
Right,
they're not
right.
vibey
Right.
enough to like keep the vibes to be the own thing. I want some
Yeah.
scares.
You know what I think doesn't really help too? And I was actually, it's funny because I actually almost always dislike this in every movie. Not every movie. There are some exceptions, but when you do the chapter headings in the movie, because this movie has like chapter 1,
Oh, you don't like
chapter
that?
2, epilogue, and stuff. I don't. And I wonder if, because you guys have written scripts, do you like that when you
I
see
think it's
that
okay.
in a movie?
Kind of
You know,
depends,
I
guess.
saw a movie. I saw a movie called Borderland, and it had it in it, and so I'm
Yeah.
going to say that I probably liked it. I don't know who made that movie.
Does Borderlands have that? I actually don't remember.
Sure does. Yeah.
But like, but this movie, like, if you watch chapter 1, you're like, wait, did something happen in
Right,
chapter
right.
1? Because
I do like, and I will say this, and as someone, as a director
Yeah.
who's used the chapters, the minute you use chapters, your pace. There's a reason that
You need to
Borderland
have
is the
structure.
shortest
It has to
movie
be episodic.
because
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are waiting. Yeah, people are waiting
Yeah.
for it to end because, like, we've all been in that situation where you're watching a movie with chapters, and then you're like, okay, that was pretty cool, and then it's like chapter 5. You're like,
Yeah,
shit, it's still
yeah.
going. Like,
yeah, and it kind of speaks to a structure this movie doesn't
Yeah,
have.
it's not really a
because
chapter
this movie's
movie.
just two guys hanging out
Right.
for like 90 minutes.
and
you know?
I also the
Yeah.
thing is, like, that last chapter is called One Final Ghost, and I remember like seeing that chapter heading and being like, I thought there was only one ghost in this
Right,
movie.
right.
What the hell?
No, it was One Final Guest.
Oh.
Oh, One Final Guest, yes. But I
you're
thought that was
right.
an allusion
Yeah, I was-
to the ghost, and then it ends up being like that old man who kills himself. But then I was like, oh, maybe he is
Yeah.
a ghost. It's like, no, he's just an old man. who-
I'm also thinking of it because last night my parents were in town, so we watched Everything Is Illuminated,
Oh,
and that
yeah.
also has like a chapter every 20 minutes, and that ends with an old man randomly killing
But that's
himself in
based
a
on a book, though, I
bathtub.
think.
So
That
just
makes
like,
more sense.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's more forgivable, but it is. I do find it very annoying
Yeah.
in most cases when it's trying to.
I will
like,
honestly
do
say I've
that.
never considered whether or not I like the chapter headings, but I will say that every time I do see one, I'm always like, oh, let's go.
Because, well, half the time it's like in an indie movie where it's like the overture to Revelation.
I mean, if
You're
it's
like,
up its
shut
own
up.
ass, that's something for sure.
Yeah.
I will say this
Adorable.
movie's not
But
up its own
also,
ass.
like, I
It's
mean,
not pretentious. It's just kind of weird.
yeah, I'll say that, like, 2001, every movie
Every
by
movie by
Tarantino.
Tarantino, yeah.
It's like all those chapter
Yeah.
heads are cool. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think
Chapter
you
breaks
could
is
do without
sweet.
some of them.
Hey Josh, can you tell us what your favorite movie of all time is and whether it has chapter breaks?
I know
and
it's the
whether-
Royal
Oh,
whether,
Tenenbaums.
whether
come
it's
on.
a
I
little
know.
bit too pretentious.
There's literal
There's
chapters
library
in
books
that
in
book.
fucking movie.
Jo-
Get
Josh-
out
I
of
say
here.
if someone does
Josh
it right, it
attacked-
works.
Josh attacked this movie for being too up its own ass, knowing full
And
well that in
I
his
love the
back
Tenenbaums,
pocket,
the
If
damn
a movie
bombs.
Royal
earns
That's
being
crazy.
up its own ass,
Royal
because, like,
Tenenbaums
Yeah,
is 10
the
out
Royal
of 10 to watch.
Tenenbaums.
like 30 things happen in Royal Tenenbaums, like 3 things
I mean,
happen
for
in this
real, for
movie,
real.
so it
I mean,
earns the check.
maybe you just like headings so much that when they're not good enough for you, it makes you upset.
It also
It's-
happens in the substance.
Oh, I
and
gotta
I'm like,
see that
this
movie.
movie does not need
Is
to
it
be
not
2.5
good?
hours.
Yeah, I wanna see
Okay.
that
Yeah,
movie.
we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it.
We won't get into it. That's too much of a
We'll talk about the end of the year along with another movie that's on this wall.
Substance Space.
But yeah, you can tell that we're like, I don't know. I don't like. I think
Yeah.
this was a fun kind of like spooky. I would have like if you had kept this movie to an hour
Or
and
2.5
10 minutes,
hours.
I would have liked it a lot. Movie or 2.5 hours, and it had
Yeah.
15 more ghosts. How many people stayed at this
I know.
hotel? Ty should have been ghosts. Out. Where's the
See,
dog blowing a
exactly.
businessman for no reason?
If you want her to die at the end, have like 20 guests check in and they're all ghosts and
Right.
she's being chased.
Make
Like
it-
make it
make it
crazy.
reasonable.
yeah.
Don't just have it be like a ghost and a half
Yeah,
spookster.
to death.
Like
you know?
it easily could have
Yeah.
been even like, oh, by the way, guys, that was a Shining reference,
Yes.
just in case. I don't want anyone to be like, what the hell is he
Right.
talking about with the dog? Even have it be the Shining. Like you could have even had this be like, like, oh, she sees the ghost, maybe it like freaks her out so much she never wants to like live in the town again. It could have been
Mhm.
so many different ways to do this, but like by the end of it, if the only thing the ghost is doing is still turning around and kind of looking at you, like the Sixth Sense should not be scarier than your
I know.
full-on horror movie.
I mean, that's a scary ass movie, though, for real.
Especially the climax of it. Yeah, I'll say like there's that scene where she's walking with the audio recorder and it's like so dark that you can only see like kind of the outline of
Yeah.
stuff behind her. That scene, which is at the very beginning, is scarier than the entire
Yeah.
climax of the movie. Because also when I was watching so she dies. When I was watching the climax, I was like,
I
she
know.
has
It's like
asthma.
not that big of a deal until
Yeah,
then.
It's
yeah.
thrown
Yeah.
in
She
at
has
the
her
very
inhaler.
It's incidental. It's all
Well,
very
yeah, he shows her
incidental.
a
Yeah.
video that's scary at the
I
beginning,
also
and
think,
she has to
well,
use her inhaler. But that's like the only. But it didn't seem like she was dying, and she didn't get mad.
the
She didn't mention it. Like she
Yeah,
have to in a movie if
kind
you
of
want
the
to come
issue, like
back.
right.
if you
If
Right?
you want
Yeah,
to do the
exactly.
Chekhov's gun,
if you take out the 10 minutes of ghost sightings in this, it is indistinguishable from one of those
Yeah.
ghost hunter shows.
see, and again, I almost like I wouldn't have hated it if there turned out to be no ghost,
Yeah.
and it was like, maybe she was holding on to it, maybe she like
Maybe
kind
she
of
was one
erased
lying the
it,
whole
or like
time.
Yeah.
maybe he did, yeah,
Yeah.
If
something.
anything, the old actress, like being an actress she loved who's now like into psychic stuff, is like another like, oh, she would make the connection that this
Right.
means something, but it doesn't. But in the movie, it still doesn't. But she's a real
And
psychic.
All she comes
I
down
don't
to is
know.
just
It's
she's
just
even
very,
then,
That's
there's
her
like
whole
very big.
mantra at the end.
Yeah.
at the end, like she goes like, "Hey, can you help me get rid of the ghost? I think it's in the basement." And so she's like doing like some magic thing to like see the ghost, and then she's like, "We got to get out of here." And then like it's implied that she knew that Claire was in danger, like
Mhm.
that they were trying to kill her. But like while the climax is happening, she's very not. She's like, "Hey, we got to go get your stuff." It's like if you thought she was gonna die, who gives a
Right.
shit about her?
Right.
Like if I'm gonna die, we can leave my
Yeah,
stuff
it's
behind.
the
Like I'll get it
ghosts are not
later,
gonna
maybe.
take
Who
my
gives a
shirt.
shit? Like
Yeah.
let's get out of there.
Yeah.
And even Claire, like she's seen this ghost, she's freaked the hell out.
I
Why is
know.
she going into the
And she
basement?
thinks that
Like
she hears the voice calling her
doesn't
name,
really
and
make
she's like,
sense.
"Oh, it must be the old actress that just told me to leave." It's like, why the fuck would you think that? Why would she go back to the basement?
Why? Yeah.
You've seen this ghost 3 times.
And it
Go
should like
outside.
the ghost is literally you saw her when she was with you, then she went upstairs with you, and now there's a weird voice
Yeah.
calling you from the basement. Who
Yeah,
else
you
could
dumb
it be,
fucker.
Claire? You're fine. This is why you're.
I
I'm just
know.
giving her a performance review.
Yeah.
This is why we have to let you go.
This is why the
Oh,
hotel's
good luck.
closing.
Yeah.
And like it is disappointing, kind of like X. And again, I really like Maxine. Go check that one out. But a little bit like X. By the end of it, even the stuff I liked, I still get disappointed. Like, why is there an alligator in X? Like, it doesn't need to be there, and it just ends up like making me more confused. And Pearl doesn't exactly solve that problem. And so it's like, what am I getting out of these
Right.
things? And it's even if it's
Yeah.
like with Maxine, it's what am I getting out of Maxine? It's a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
very stupid, but it's like I loved every second of it. I haven't watched it again, so we'll see if I like it on the second time. But like in this one, like if I was having fun, it's kind of deflated by Claire
Yeah.
being murdered. If I was like, I'm not really scared. Like there's nothing else to take out of this. Even if I like the characters, by the end of it, they're like if I had just watched the first 20 minutes, I wouldn't
Right.
have lost anything.
And I think what's kind of interesting about all these criticisms that we have too is that like if this was like made by like I think that Ti West is an interesting guy because it's like he does some things just so well and some things just not so well, and so it's like if everything was just on the same plane of good or bad, it'd be like, oh, it's kind of a schlocky horror movie, who cares? But we all have so many feelings about Ti West because he's like
Yeah.
such an interesting filmmaker. Because like there are some things that we really like, there are some things that
Yeah.
we really don't like. And I don't know, that doesn't really say anything good or bad, but it's kind of an interesting note.
No, yeah, it is
But
very like my
yeah.
expectations
Right.
were very all over the place. I'm like, is there going to be a ghost? And
Mhm.
then it's weird that there was.
And then I
So-
wish, like, honestly, you hit the nail on the head. I wish that Ti West would
Yeah.
direct someone else's script, just because I think like his
Yeah.
casting is always great. His look is always great. It's just the story's kind of like it almost feels a little bit like a meta or like the guy who made Barbarian made Whitest Kids You Know. And like that movie very much feels like he got bored with whatever story he was telling after 20 minutes and decided
Yeah.
to tell a completely different story. That's kind of how Ti West acts, but like in a mumblecore way where everything's like
Right.
still flatline.
Still kind of flows.
when he
yeah.
changes, it just kind of goes
Yeah.
right there. Where like
I
in
know.
Barbarian, he's like,
Barbarian,
bam, bam, bam.
Barbarian,
For real,
those are
for real.
hard chapter breaks.
Yeah.
You know exactly that you're watching a different movie. He's actually married to Sarah Paxton, oddly enough.
Oh,
No fucking way.
interesting.
What a connection. Right?
He's also a friend. He's also a friend of the pod because we love White as
Hell
Kids.
yeah.
You know, we'll love you forever,
Yeah,
Travis.
I
Barbarian's
love
good.
Barbarian too, and I feel
Wow.
like
I don't
Weapons
know
is
about
going to
Weapons,
be
but if it's
good.
the same guy, I'll be there.
Sure.
Give us
Yeah.
advanced tickets.
Yeah, give us advance ticket. And also, I know what you're saying. Well, if I give you advance tickets, what am I going to watch? Well, guess what? You got a Screenbox
Get the fuck out
Classic right here. So buy Screenbox. You can
Hold
afford
on,
it. You're
hold on,
married
hold
to
on.
Sarah Paxton.
I forgot that Ti West did
Look at him.
Mumblecore though. That's something I never taken into consideration watching his movies. I do with like fucking who made the League? What's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
They're
Duplass
so Mumblecore.
brothers are
Mark
who I think of when I
Duplass,
think of
Well, Mark
Mumblecore.
Duplass. Yeah. And that's
yeah.
why, like, Lena
and
Dunham.
Adam Wingard, I think, was part of that crew too. But he got really into genre. He like Your Next is like a very dynamic film. That's like not Mumblecore at all. And The Guest.
Adam Wingard made one. The Guest is great, but if you really want to see a true classic from Adam Wingard, there's only one movie to watch. It's called Godzilla v Kong: A New Empire. Make sure you watch the second one because the first one.
Did he do Drinking Buddies too?
But yeah,
Or
he's like, and that's. Yeah, I think that
No, it
wasn't
Ti
that
West. I think it might have been. Maybe it was a third person. I shouldn't have brought that up without knowing. I have no idea.
I think
Drinking Buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just gonna guess for the rest of this.
Yeah. It's like, hey, who made Friday
Rob
the 13th?
Zombie, of course. It was Marilyn
We're like
Manson.
so bored. We're just talking.
Well,
Yeah.
in conclusion, the Innkeepers. I wish you'd kept
Agreed.
me
Show me
more
more rooms
interested.
next time, please. Or a really cool one
Yeah,
room.
and like I said, William.
I knew it was the
Joe
third
Swanberg,
guy.
we forgot.
I knew it was the third
The
guy.
worst of the bunch.
Yeah.
It was, and
Yeah.
I completely forgot about him. Or I've tried.
Yeah,
to.
I like Drinking
No,
Buddies.
he makes good. I like. Here's the thing. I'll always appreciate Mumblecore guys because they were like, "Hey, we don't care about the studio. We're just gonna make this thing, even if it costs $200 and we make
that
it
was
on
like our indie scene when we were
paper
in
bag,
college.
you know." And
That was like you can't get away from liking that.
Yeah. And it was one of those things that inspired us to make some of the stuff that's behind us. And so, it's hard for me to hate on them too much, even though like I'm not a huge fan of Mumblecore.
Like
shit.
true Mumblecore is kind of hard to watch sometimes.
Yeah. Although maybe there is a couple of them. There's one that I really want to cover. It's like the only Mumblecore horror.
I remember I never watched
really
it, but you were used to be all about that, and I would be down to watch that for sure.
Yeah. It's tough because the main actress killed herself. But I mean, I think it'd be good to talk about it. If I remember what it was called, because I
but
totally
you used to talk about the movie all the time.
Oh, I know, and it was one of the reasons that I made this pod so we could talk about it. So we'll see.
It'll be a special episode.
I think that's one of the reasons. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that I wanted to cover this movie, is so that we can kind of talk about how I'm not a huge fan of Ti West, but you gotta appreciate someone who's doing his own things, who's like trying stuff, even if it doesn't really work all the time. Again, I would rather have someone who's trying and failing than someone who's like, oh, let's just make Spider-Man versus Tony Stark.
I would watch anything that Ti West comes out with. Like, if he came out to like in the Valley of Violence 2, even though I didn't like the first one, I'd be like, let's go. Why not?
Yeah. Toad Road is the movie, guys.
Oh, Toad Road. You always talk about Toad Road.
We will eventually watch that one. It's tough. It's very scary.
And yet I've never seen it.
Toad Road, it's the Mumblecore movie.
Is it a haunted house?
Toad Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a haunted town.
No, I wish it was.
No, we'd have to do it later.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll do it after. Hopefully you guys like this. There's going to be a lot of cool Halloween stuff. I think there's going to be a deep dive. There might even be some shorts. And guys, on October 15th, hopefully it might change a little bit. There's going to be a very big announcement. So go check it out. We're working on it right now. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know what you're thinking. Hey, Andrew, we love your podcast. Can we give you money? Well, guess what? Your dreams are about to come true. And so we'll talk about that soon. Until then, I know you guys got money burning through a hole in your pocket. Go to App Store. Write in SCREAM, and it's going to fill in the rest, and then watch the empty space for 24 hours. It's like Goonie, But you're watching the empty space instead, and you're not touching yourself in any way.
No,
We might take that
It's not
joke.
a finger. That's something else.
Welcome back to the Bomb Squad. Happy Halloween. We hope you have a fun time.